Scott Braun does a great job covering baseball, MLB, MLB Network, MLB.com. You can catch him on the rundown coming up in about an hour. And, of course, check out MLB Network. They'll feature the Red Sox and the Astros tonight at 8 p.m. Visit MLBnetwork.com for your local channel listings. And he's kind enough to join us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. How you been, Scott?
Rich, I've been great. Action-packed week, actually. So I had the Facebook game the other day, and then, I had my show in an hour, and I'll be doing some shows this weekend and also preparing for the MLB draft next week. I know it doesn't get, say, as much attention as an NBA draft or an NFL draft based on the fact that I get it, and I'll tell you this. I mean, this is the simplest answer when someone asks me. I said, okay, NBA or NFL, when someone is selected, they can instantly impact your franchise.
Correct.
Your NBA or NFL franchise.
Yes.
It just doesn't happen in Major League Baseball. So
no.
Naturally, there's going to be a difference, but at the same time, it's really cool to follow, and you see those storylines, and you see big names. We have them every year here. I mean, Mike Trout's been here. We've had huge names that have been here, and you learn a little bit about them. It's really cool to see them. Sometimes there's less fanfare around it. So you're getting players that are more humble and more nervous even around media. They haven't had as much media training, say, as somebody that's usually getting drafted in the NBA or the NFL, right? We have high school kids popping up here. So it's really fun. And for me, I get to do some extensive interviews. So we have 6 players that are going to be here, and I'm doing a lot. For day 2 and 3, I host it. Day 1, I do all of the social media work.
Okay.
So a lot of interviews, and that includes all the players that are there. I do Q&As with them, and people ask questions on Facebook, much like I do with my Facebook games for the broadcast. But so everyone gets to ask whatever they want to these kids that are getting taken in the first round. Hey, what's next for you? Did you get a phone call? What did they say? All that kind of stuff. So it's fun. I really like doing it.
No, that's pretty neat because when you think about it, especially if you get on board with some of these young players early on, then I think more fans, or if they endear themselves to a certain fan base, they're more inclined to really follow their careers a lot more. And that's, I think, also to the benefit of what a lot of us do on social media now. There's so many opportunities to give them more exposure. And I think a Q&A is fantastic because you want, it's great. You can sit there and say, hey, I'm allowed to tweet a question or ask a question to a guy or a kid that just got drafted. So I think it's a win-win.
Really neat. Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
So you got Houston takes the first of a 4-game set against the Red Sox 4-2 last night. You got Sale and Cole tonight on the Hill, respectively. Yankees have won 4 of 6. Last night's game against the O's postponed. I'm curious, when you look at the Red Sox and the Yankees right now, I still think the Red Sox, well, if you look at the Martinez move compared to the Stanton move right now, the Red Sox have the better in that. Let me ask you this. Do you think Stanton is going to break out of this slump, or is he going to struggle his first year in New York?
Yes, I definitely do think he's going to break out of this slump. I mean, it's clearly not going to be the dream season for him, I think, at this point. I mean, I don't think he's going to have video game numbers, maybe not even what he has last year, because I was able to say this for a while. His start last year was super slow. So I think we finally hit the point where at this point last year he had been turning it around more so than he is right now. But still, ultimately, just following Giancarlo Stanton on a yearly basis, he's streaky. That's just how he is. I mean, he'll do nothing for a month, and then he'll do everything and be the best player in baseball for a month. I mean, he will absolutely explode just like he did last year. So you just figure the ballpark, the team, and the surrounding cast that he has now versus what he had last year. It's only a matter of time. That math does ultimately add up. I mean, he's not going to struggle. It just doesn't make sense. Okay, he's going to a different league. He's adjusting to a new team and a new city and looking at pitchers that he doesn't see as often. But ultimately, it's going to turn around. He's going to have some superstar numbers that he's going to put up at certain times during the season. And for the Yankees, it's all good right now. They're fine. They're 35-17.
Yeah, that's true. You can't complain. Yeah.
No, so can you imagine if he does go on one of these surges? And hey, what if one of these surges is in October? Then who cares what he did during the regular season? The Yankees have the firepower. They don't need him to. Obviously, they would love him to be a superstar. But, I mean, if he's going to have his major struggles, that's fine as long as he hits at the right times for them. I mean, he'll be okay. But, yes, ultimately, the J.D. Martinez move has proven to be the better move so far. And I think J.D. Martinez is more of a complete hitter. He's a hitter. Obviously a power hitter too, but he's a hitter. So that's worked out well for the Red Sox. The Red Sox needed it more too. That was the big difference. The Yankees have already had big-time offense. The Red Sox last year were last in the American League in home runs. That never happens from them, and it shouldn't happen in that ballpark. They were badly, badly missing a presence in the lineup,
Yep.
a designated hitter that is feared since David Ortiz went down. And last year there was nobody, and this year J.D. Martinez is everything they could have dreamed of.
No, it's a great point. I mean, he is the difference maker in the middle of their lineup. I think last year they only finished with, you mentioned 27 in home runs, and the other night, I mean, the bomb, his 18th homer of the season. And you're right, he is a major league hitter. I guess, you know, Boston, to me, I don't think we've really scratched the surface with Boston. I mean, that's how highly in regard I look at this team, where I believe this is the team that they're going to win over 100 games. They're going to go on another tear. And I don't know if the Yankees are going to be able to catch them. I know it's a long season, but I don't think we've seen really the best of Boston, which is kind of goofy to say just yet.
I agree. I picked the Red Sox to win the division at the start of the year. I did think it would be close, and that's what we're seeing right now. The Red Sox and the Yankees are pretty much neck and neck. I think the Red Sox have the edge. I think they definitely have the edge in starting pitching, although the Yankees could certainly acquire somebody at the trade deadline. They were aggressive last year. It worked out well. They mostly were able to, obviously they got Sonny Gray, but they mostly were able to address their bullpen last year. Sonny Gray is pitching tonight for the Yankees, and that's somebody who really needs to turn it around for them, because it's not somebody that they're just going to give up on so quickly, but his ERA is close to 6 right now. I mean, that can't happen. So I'm with you for the Red Sox. I think their offense can keep up with the Yankees, and starting pitching, I give them the edge. I love Chris Sale. I think David Price, he's had his ups and downs, but as long as he's healthy, I think he's going to be a factor, a number 2 starter for them. That's perfect. Rick Porcello is a 2 or a 3. I really like Eduardo Rodriguez when he's healthy. So the only thing with the Red Sox is the bullpen. That's something to keep an eye on, but guess what? There's usually plenty of bullpen arms that you can acquire at the trade deadline, and the Red Sox are going to do that. So I think they'll be in great shape.
Yeah, and with the calendar turning into June right now, you have the non-waiver trade deadline. It's approaching now until July 31st. I'm sure there's going to be all these rumors and speculation. I'm curious real quick back to the Yankees, and I thought it was a great audition for a guy like Cole Hamels. Do you think there could be a potential dark horse in the NL that makes a move for Cole Hamels? Because I would love to see him in pinstripes with the Yankees.
Yeah, I'll give you a name. I just called the Brewers-Cardinals game. The Milwaukee Brewers will make a move for a starting pitcher. They're being silly.
Is he on their no trade? Is he on their no trade list though?
That's a good question. I can try and look that up.
I mean, he can waive it, especially if he thinks they're going to have an opportunity to go to the playoffs. But wow, that's an outside the box one. Because I saw his list of who he would be hoping to going to, and I think they were on the no trade list. But the bottom line is, what makes you say Milwaukee? Because of the season they're having, and they have a chance to get back to the postseason.
They have a chance to get back to the postseason. Last year they were in first place at the trade, not at the trade deadline, at the All-Star break over the Cubs, and then that disappeared. But they have more offense this year. Christian Yelich and Lorenzo Cain are really legit hitters, obviously good fielders too. So I mean, those were 2 huge moves that I didn't expect from them, because they actually had a surplus in the outfield. A guy like Domingo Santana is a 30-homer bat, and he's had to spend a lot of time on the bench, but they're all about depth, and that's the way to win nowadays, because if somebody goes down, then you're like, oh, yeah, it's cool. We have a 30-homer guy off the bench. This guy, Jesus Aguilar, looks like an all-star right now. Another guy off their bench, mostly just hitting against lefties, gets the chance to play because Eric Thames goes down, and he's been a star, and he's also legit hitter, very good hitter for the Brewers, starting caliber player. So offense is there. Bullpen is there. Josh Hader's the best reliever in the sport, no doubt about it right now this year. He is electric. Nobody can touch him. He is the new Andrew Miller right now. Corey Knebel's an all-star closer at the back end. The only thing they're missing is a frontline starting pitcher. They have some starters. Some of them overperformed, though, last year. They had Chase Anderson, Zach Davies, some of those pitchers that have taken a step back, and they need one guy, also a guy that's just going to eat innings, because what I do worry about is they have the best bullpen in baseball right now, ERA-wise. I worry they're going to get a little taxed and they're going to go through a slump. So they need a guy that's going to pick up a few more innings for them. Often they'll pull a pitcher after the second time he goes through a lineup. It's hard to maintain that for the entire season. So Hamels, I gave them a few names when I was out there. Hamels is definitely one that I could see. Yeah, I'm not sure. I couldn't find the no trade list for him, but I do know that Hamels would waive it. Like if they say, hey, it's Milwaukee or nothing, just like they said last year to Verlander, it's Houston or nothing, I think Hamels would waive it to go there, because he's a free agent after this year anyway. They're going to buy out his contract. So I think he would go there, and then the other names for them are more long-term and would cost more, but Michael Fulmer, Chris Archer, and Jay Happ is pitching really well for Toronto.
Yep.
So I think the Brewers are going to get one of those, and I think the Brewers can make the playoffs.
Wow. You know, it's funny you mentioned Verlander. I can't recall an acquisition, a move, where a guy, the way he's been pitching, if you kind of bridge last year when he goes over to Houston to this year, it just reminds me of those years that Clemens had when Toronto acquired him, and he had just those marvelous, the ERA was just so minuscule, so low. He's winning 20-something odd games. I don't know how to explain it, but Verlander seems to have gotten better, which look at, their starting rotation's ridiculous.
He's better. It's insane. Their starting rotation, they have pretty much a number one in every slot. I mean, Charlie Morton's pitching like a number one. Garrett Cole's a number one right now. Justin Verlander's number one. It's crazy. I mean, Brad Peacock's out of their bullpen. He could be a number 3 starter for most teams. So Justin Verlander is 35 years old, and this is among the best we've seen from his strikeout numbers, his walk numbers down, not giving up home runs, throwing more of the slider, and it looks so good. It's been a money pitch for him. He got better. I mean, he was getting better towards the end there with the Tigers again. He had that down, 2-year stretch almost where he had the core muscle surgery. He wasn't the same, and you thought maybe he was done or maybe he was going to have to remodel himself. But no, the velocity comes back. Here, I'll ask you this. You have one pitcher, one game to win right now for all the marbles. Who is it?
Oh, it's got to be Verlander.
It has to,
the
right?
way he's pitching.
Scherzer's the other name you could throw out there, but Verlander's been better in the playoffs.
And you can't, and you can't mention Kershaw because he's always banged up.
Yep. He's always banged up, and he's had his moments in the playoffs. And Bumgarner's hurt right now. That's the only other name. He'll be back pretty soon. But right now, it's got to be Justin Verlander. If I got one guy, one game on the line, it's JV easy based on last year's playoffs and this year.
I remember they were going to write him off in 2011 when he lost 17 games. And then he had that stretch, 19-9, 18-9. He won 24 games. He was a Cy Young award winner. He was in the MVP. And it's amazing, 35, and to put up those numbers. I pulled up Clemens' numbers real quick, and I'm not comparing them, but I'm just saying that 97-98 stretch with Toronto, 21-7, 20-6, the ERA, 2.05, 2.65. I mean, the back-to-back years where we're in the Cy Young. Remember, he had that ridiculous start to the season. That's kind of it. Verlander's start kind of reminds me of that.
And I dug this up just now, too. So 2014, when he was really struggling badly, they booed him in Detroit after all that he did for that organization. They're booing him. He goes, I'd boo myself, too. And then he goes, they will cheer again. Oh, yeah, man. He got his
He's
revenge
a warrior.
on everybody that was counting him out.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable move by them. I'm curious, what do you think over in the NL with the Philadelphia Phillies? I know they're dealing with some injuries with Hoskins, but the starting rotation has been a pleasant surprise. Kapler all of a sudden seems to be pushing all the right buttons, and even when he's throwing out Neris, he's getting some saves and a couple outs. I've said this even when they acquired Santana. You have to be patient with him because he's a notorious slow starter, but we see Herrera get on base. I mean, do they have sustainability here in the NL? We know the Nats are going to be the Nats, but kind of handicap the rest of that division.
I think they do. That's what I've been trying to do. It's so difficult. And here's how I do the big picture with the National League. Out west, it's worse than I thought the division would be. The Dodgers are down. The Padres are not that good, obviously, and then the Rockies are okay, but they could win the division. The Diamondbacks are down. They had a great start, and they've been terrible since. Anyway, my point is, I looked at the NL West. I was like, wow, good division. That's going to be. I mean, it's going to be a good race, but the teams are not as good as I thought. NL East, I was like, oh my gosh, the Nationals are going to cruise. Everybody else is one step below. I don't know if they're. I mean, the Nationals are going to win the division. I don't know if they're necessarily going to cruise. There's talent there. I mean, from top to bottom. Yes, I think at this point, I've been going back and forth on the Braves and the Phillies. Mets just get hurt too much. I'm worried about them. They rely way too much on just DeGrom and Syndergaard being healthy, and the injuries pile up again for them. So I put the Mets right now. I can't see them making the postseason. Phillies or Braves, I could see either of them making the playoffs. And when I've gone back and forth right now, I give it to the Phillies. And the reason is I think the starting pitching has a little more sustainability on the short term. The Braves actually have a ton of young arms, probably better pitching long term. But for this season, I think Atlanta's much more inexperienced and unproven in terms of their starters. I mean, Philly has Arrieta and Nola at the top, and Pivetta, who's been so good. I mean, and obviously we can go through the names, Eichhoff and Velasquez, etc. But it's enough. It's enough to make it through the whole season right now. And then there are a few reinforcements for injuries. Obviously, they need to stay somewhat healthy. And yeah, they've been going through some injury issues lately, although not terrible. Hoskins won't be gone for too long. And when you look at their DL list, it's not nearly as bad in terms of impact names.
Right.
Kershaw's missed a lot of time, and Seager's down for the year for the Dodgers. Murphy's been out for the Nats. We can go through all these names. There are quite a few names at this point on the list for them, right? J.P. Crawford, but he wasn't doing much anyway, and Neshek and Adam Morgan on the DL, and Hoskins down for right now. But there's enough there. I mean, and that's what they've done. We criticized Gabe Kapler at the beginning of the year, and by we, I shouldn't say me because I didn't do this, but fans criticized him. Hey, Nick Williams, you're not playing the right guys. No. Nick Williams was the odd man out for then, and then when injuries happen, which they always do, like Hoskins going down, Nick gets to play every day and contribute, and now you have a starting caliber outfielder there. That's what you do. the name of the game now for winning in baseball, and you saw it from the Astros, you saw it from the Cubs, it's youth and it's depth. It's the two key words. So the Phillies are building both of those things, and the best part about it is they also have a ton of money. So they can spend at the deadline with prospects and taking on money, because a lot of times teams are trying to dump money at the trade deadline. Phillies are like, bring it. We got plenty of payroll, so they can take on more money, and then, of course, they'll do this in the offseason. So to sum it up, I have Nationals 1, and right now I do have Phillies 2, Braves 3, and Mets 4, and, of course, the Marlins 5.
A couple minutes with Scott Braun on a Friday right here, middays with Q. Rich Quinones here. We'll take you up to 2 o'clock. Kind enough to join us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Don't forget, you can catch them on the rundown in about 40 minutes. Plus, MLB Network will feature the Red Sox Astros tonight at 8 p.m. Visit them online, MLBnetwork.com. A couple more quickies before I let you get out of here. I'm curious, going back to the Phillies, realistically, who do you think will land Manny Machado?
I think it's really possible it's the Phillies. I would put the Phillies as the front runner. And I said this to someone the other day. I think it was on the Facebook broadcast. Maybe I was responding to a comment or a DM on my Instagram, because after the game I usually say, hey, if we didn't get to any of your questions, send me a DM, I'll answer. So I said, they're getting one of the big names. The Phillies are going to get Harper or Machado, somebody that's super expensive. They have the money to spend. They want to have a superstar back in Philadelphia. Obviously, they'll make their own homegrown, but they want to bring someone in and say, hey, we're ready. It's time. So if you do the math, doesn't it make much more sense for them to acquire Machado? And as we look at the teams for Manny, for example, in the wintertime, we're going, oh, Manny's a Yank. There's no doubt about it. He's going to be a Yankee. Where's he playing? Miguel Andujar looks really good. He only plays third base. They have a shortstop already in Didi Gregorius. They have Gleyber Torres at second. I mean, there's no spots for Manny Machado right now. So for the Phillies, okay, you could go for Harper. They certainly could put him in there, and he's a better player, obviously, than Aaron Altair. But why not Manny Machado at shortstop and either use J.P. Crawford as trade bait or figure something else out? And we haven't seen a ton of J.P. yet, but hey, I think Phillies fans would be just fine with signing Machado. I'm not just saying this because you're down in Atlantic City and you got all the Phillies fans. I really do think that they're the front runner right now for Manny Machado. They have the money, they have the space, they have the opening, and the time is now.
So obviously, and the Phillies in return, they would get a bunch of prospects. I mean, you would. I mean, I would think Los Santos, Taveras, Gamboa. I'm curious, though, if you look at the Phillies right now, how about this thought? So you got Hernandez, and I like Cesar Hernandez. I think he's a good player.
Me too.
But, the talk is, well, you're kind of blocking Scott Kingery at second. Again, I wonder if you kind of potentially would throw him into the mix. See, I don't want to trade Herrera. So many guys text in Herrera. I wouldn't want to do that. I guess the other thing is they spent $169 million during the winter on Arrieta and Santana, and you mentioned they still have a ton of cash. You can connect the dots. I'm just wondering, if you do it, is it more of the rental, because you're going to have to break the bank going forward with him? And that's the thing. I mean, he's young enough, right? I mean, he's 25.
Are we talking about trading for him or signing him?
I'm talking about trading for him.
Oh, trading for him is a different story. So yes, I think Philly's possible. I think Chicago is a
that's what I was thinking too. Chicago.
Yes. Okay, so different story.
I apologize.
For signing purposes, I think Philadelphia. For trading purposes, I mean, here's the names. Here's some that I had come up with. Yeah, Philly's on the list. I think Chicago would be the front runner. In that, they made a package offer in the offseason that included Addison Russell and then a couple other names, and they need quality and quantity. The Orioles system is it's not good. I mean, it's better than it was in the past. It's a little more towards the middle of the pack, but they still need a lot because they're going to be losing a lot. The Dodgers are definitely possible if they're in a good spot because they don't have a shortstop for the rest of this season. The St. Louis Cardinals are possible. Paul DeYoung's out. I don't know for how long. It could be a long time. And Manny, at least they could say, hey, listen, we've shown you could play shortstop for all the teams. We might need you to play short and or third. So that's a possibility. So is the Arizona Diamondbacks, and so is, I think, a dark horse, the Cleveland Indians. So those would be the teams that I would look at as possibilities, and I would put Chicago at the top. I think they make noise, and they know. The Cubs know, hey, their window of opportunities right now, these windows don't last as long as you think. They need to capitalize. They need a little more offense.
When's before I let you get out, when's your next Facebook? When are you doing Facebook again?
So next week I'm doing the MLB draft. So there is a Facebook game. It's the Diamondbacks and the Giants. I'm actually
you can't
off
do both?
the next 2 weeks.
You're taking off? Come on.
I'm not taking off. I'm
I was
on
going to
the
say,
air.
you should come on. That's what I'm saying. You're the man with many hats.
If they can clone me, I'm down. If they can clone me. So
you got the draft on next week.
Yeah, day 2 I host on MLB.com
right.
for 6.5 hours straight. Day 3 we're on from 11 to 4 Eastern. So my next Facebook game actually is I have these next 2 off. So I am back on the 20th of June for Braves and Blue Jays, and then back into Milwaukee actually the week after that. So then I get back into the mix again. So
you got to try to get
it's been a fun run.
You got to try to get a signed book from Hernandez.
A signed book from
Keith Hernandez.
From Keith.
Yeah, the next time if you guys ever do anything with him. So.
Yeah, no, we have. We did recently.
All right,
I'm going to check out the book, too. And I do a little work, actually, for SNY, so I'm going to grab one. I heard it's pretty entertaining. It's up my alley, I think.
All right. You work with Nelson Figueroa?
Yes, I have. I've called some games with him in the past. Yeah.
Tell him we said hello. All right, look, I know you got a lot of stuff. You got stuff coming up at 2. I always appreciate you making time for us. And
it's always
hopefully
fun,
we'll get you back on. Thanks, Scott.
Okay, you got it.
You got it. Be well. All right. Scott Braun does a great job. Don't forget, catch him on the rundown coming up at 2, plus MLB Network. Feature the Red Sox and the Astros tonight at 8 p.m. Visit MLB Network for your local channel listings.